In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you can create pixel art sprite sheets for animations to apply in, let's say, Godot or Unreal or other engines that use sprite sheets. Okay, I've got a finished example here. It's a very short one, just a 3-frame sprite sheet. Normally, you would probably have 7, 8, 9, 10 or so numbers of frames, and these represent 3 different frames on an animation. In this case, it starts with a yellow face, and then here it changes to green, and the eyeball moves up a little bit, and in the 3rd frame, the whole face jumps up. Okay. Here is what would be what I considered the finished file. It's a transparent background, and ultimately, I would export this as a PNG, which we'll do at the end of the process here. Here's my source file. And I have each frame, I had each frame on a separate layer. And I'm going to show you how we can initiate that now. So I'm going to start a new file. And we're doing pixel art. So I would recommend, you know what, pixel art comes at 16 by 16, 32 by 32, 64 by 64, increments like that. So I'm going to find the happy medium here and go with 32 pixels. Make sure you set the pixels here by 32 pixels at 72 pixels per inch. RGB color, make sure it's RGB color, and also make sure your background is transparent. Then click create, and you're going to have to zoom up on that. It's Control plus or Command plus on the Mac, and just get it to a reasonable size, and we're going to use our pencil to paint. Now, I already opened my swatches. Have your swatches and or your color ready. Swatches seems to make more sense in this case. There are a lot of swatches in the library here that you can access. I'm going to primarily just use these basic colors here. Okay, so I need to go to my pencil tool. The pencil tool is bundled with the brush tool here. And if ultimately you can't find the tool, it may be hidden. You can go down to these 3 dots, edit toolbar, and it's going to pop open this window, and you would see any tools that are missing over here. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel that just in case your tool is missing. So I can see the size of my pencil brush here. The keys on the right side of the letter P are the shortcuts for making the brush size bigger and smaller. The left key shrinks, the right key expands. Okay, once you get to a certain point though, it goes into this little cross pattern and so on. So I'd keep it down to like the 1 pixel right there, to the 4, or maybe to the 8. Or is that 12? I'm going to go down to 1 pixel at any rate. I've got my color set to red in the foreground, and I'm going to start with that. And you know what? Maybe I will make the brush just a bit bigger. 4 pixels. And I'm very quickly drawing here pixel art. You're going to obviously want to be more careful when you're doing your genuine art. But here we go, and I'm just going to do like a little happy face here. And let's see here, I guess I'll fill that in with the yellow, so I'm going to pick the yellow, and I can go to my bucket tool, which again is nested with the gradient tool, and I can click in there to fill that, then back to my pencil tool, and I don't know, I'll just make a couple of blue eyes. Maybe I'll make these a bit bigger for my brush, and maybe go like that, and then maybe make my brush smaller, and whatever, right? Okay, so there's frame 1. Now, what I need to do to make this successful is put up some registration marks. So I'm going to make those red again just so they're blatantly obvious. And go back to my pencil and just shrink it down to the 1 pixel. And put 1 little box up at the left corner and 1 little box at the right corner. Those are going to be critical for lining this up to register it when we divide this into sprite sheets. So let's say that's frame 1. I'm good to go on frame 1. When you want to create your animation, you usually do it like on top of each other, like you're looking down on a light table. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, which duplicates it above itself. And I'm just going to name it number 2. Okay, and make some changes in here. So I could go in here and use my magic wand and select, and then come back to my move tool and move that. I can do that a number of ways. I can move it with the move tool after it's selected. And let me turn off the layer below actually so you get a better idea. I have left a hole there, so I'm going to fill that in with yellow. in a little while. I'm just going to go deselect here. There's a number of ways of selecting, right? I could just go to my selection tool and draw to select it there, and then hold again my command key on the Mac, control key on the PC. And so I've moved the eyes up a bit. Let me fill these holes up. Control D to deselect. I'll go and select my yellow, and I can either use my pencil tool to draw those in, which I'll do this time, or I could have used the bucket tool. Okay, so the eyes shifted up a little bit. I already have my registration mark since I duplicated the layer. So I'm going to do one more duplicate here. Right click, duplicate layer, call this one number 3. And I'll turn off the layer below so as to not get confused. And make some other changes. Maybe here I will add some ears and I'll make them magenta. We'll make the brush a little smaller. So these are just going to appear on frame 3. Now it's not meant to really be a true animation, right? It's just making some changes here for the sake of changes, and maybe a couple of antenna. Okay, one for there. Starting to look like a Teletubby. All right, so that's definitely something different than what we saw in the other frames. So I'm just saving as I go here. Actually, I've been very bad. I haven't really saved this yet. So let me save this now as Sprite Sheet. I'll say 02. And click save. All right. Yeah, I should have saved that at the very beginning. My bad. And then saved along. I'm just a little too excited here. All right. So there are the 3 frames. Now we need to spread them out evenly as a sprite sheet. So I'm going to make sort of a horizontal strip. So that gets done with the canvas size. Canvas size. I'm going to anchor it to the left. And I'm going to change my units to pixels. It's very important to change that to pixels. And I'm just going to multiply this times 3. So it's 32 times 3 would be 96. So I'm just going to replace the horizontal, the width to 96 and click OK. And move that over. And if it's a little big, I'll just shrink it here. Okay. And move that into place with my space bar. And this is the 3rd frame. But I'll turn the other 2 on right now. The first frame right here stays in place. The second frame, with your selection tool, you're going to drag it over with your shift key down and line up the registration mark just to the right of this one. Ensure that auto select is turned off for this process. Then also ensure that the layer number 2 is selected over here, and then drag it to the right. Hold your shift key down when you're dragging it, and again just snap it to the right of that. Now I'm going to zoom up on that, and just so you know, because we're working at a pixel level with the selection tool, your left and right arrow keys are excellent nudge tools. They will literally nudge 1 pixel at a time, like that. Okay, so you can always zero in if you have to with your left and right arrow tools in this case. So I'm just going to zoom back out, and I'm going to grab the 3rd layer, click on the 3rd layer, and just drag that and drag the registration point to the right of that one. Because my auto select is off, it doesn't matter where I click when I drag. And this was frame number 3, and it does tend to snap again due to the fact that we're working at a pixel level. And that's pretty well it, except I need to eliminate these registration marks. So how I would do it is I would save this as my what I call my original source file. I would duplicate this as a flattened file, remove the registration marks, and save that as the PNG. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to save this. So you're going to have a couple of levels, right, when you're saving these Photoshop files. I'm going to go to Image Duplicate. Here I can crunch all the layers together by clicking Duplicate, Merge Layers Only. And again, I need to zoom up on that. And just go in and delete with my selection tool. I'm just going to use my rectangular marquee tool and delete those red boxes at the top. Okay, so there is my sprite sheet perfectly, separated, that will work beautifully again in a game program or a program that requires sprite sheets. Last thing I need to do is to export this as the actual file. So I'm going to go with the export, quick export as PNG. PNG will retain the transparent background. Okay. And again, I'll just save it in here, and I'll just call it Sprite Sheet 02.png. And that's the file that you would import into your gaming software. So I'd like you to create a 12-frame animation using this method, and make it count. We can try this in our game class and work it out and see what we can do. You don't need to use these dimensions. You can use 64-bit, and you can do like a standing figure, but I'll leave the artistic choices up to you. But I want you to do a sprite sheet with 12 frames, please, and hand that in as a PNG. And that's your assignment on how to do pixel art and creating sprite sheets in Adobe Photoshop.